Hello friends from REDINTUR. My name is Marta Sánquiz and I come from the University of the Balearic Islands. I am pleased to present you my final master project titled Who is the Host? Online Identity Construction on Airbnb. Online identity is a dynamic, multifaceted, and socially constructed concept. We say it's dynamic as it is product of changing social contexts managed to adapt to them. It is capable to evolve and is subjected to continuous recreations over time and space. It is multifaceted as it represents the different roles a person has in the society and the meanings and behaviors associated with them. And it is socially constructed by dialogue and shaped in self-perception, others' perception, and the interpersonal power relationships at play. According to this, we understand host identity as the dynamic configuration of the host defining personal and social characteristics in online space constructed through social interaction between hosts and peers. On a peer-to-peer sharing accommodation platform such as Airbnb, profile information creates a user's identity. Profiles include a photo, a textual self-description, and peers' reviews. As identity is socially constructed, markers and forms of identity conveyed on self-descriptions made by hosts only provide a partial impression of the individual's identity. Peers contribute to the construction of online identity by validating, denying, or complementing this concept on their reviews after face-to-face or direct communication with hosts. But why is host identity important? Previous research has proved that guests on Airbnb use listings information plus host information as cues to make their purchase decision, and host online identity, self-presented through visual means, can have a negative impact on the property performance. However, no previous study has approached the concept of identity on Airbnb considering both sources of information, self-descriptions, and peer reviews. Only one previous research has dealt with its creation at all, finding that hosts portray their defining characteristics and manage personal and commercial identities through self-presentation. The main objective of this research was to explore how host online identity was constructed on Airbnb. For this purpose, textual data containing self-descriptions of 1,590 hosts in Majorca and 41,499 peer reviews were subjected to a qualitative thematic analysis. Thematic analysis is considered a method for identifying, analyzing, and reporting patterns within the data. This method was selected due to the subjective and multifaceted nature of online identity, which was believed would not be sufficiently captured from the rich body of descriptive data by quantitative techniques. As the volume of data was considerably large, organization and exploration of the content was performed with the aid of the quantitative data analysis software NVivo11. The thematic analysis follows 6 different phases. Here we will explain the process using as example one host self-description. Phase 1 involved familiarization with the data and identification of patterns of meaning. Phase 2 involved the coding process. Codes mark a feature of data that appears interesting to the analyst. In this case, some codes generated for the reference include surf and sports. By the end of the phase, over 400 total codes had been generated from the sources. In the third phase, basic themes that could relate the codes generated in phase 2 were identified. A theme captures something important about the data in relation to the research question and represents some level of pattern response or meaning within the dataset. Then, in Phase 4, basic themes from all sources were condensed according to their similarities to create organizing themes, such as hobbies. These themes represented a higher level of meaning organization that could be defined and named. After a deeper analysis and refinement, global themes are formed in Phase 5. Each global theme expresses a solid and single argument and captures a distinctive aspect of the data. Finally, in the 6th phase, the resulting global themes regarding host online identity were described and represented on a thematic network. In this image, you can see the thematic network resulted from the previous analysis. 4 global themes that describe defining characteristics of the host on the online context are presented. First, the social person. Second, the outstanding service provider. Third, the active individual. And fourth, the multicultural self. The first global theme that describes defining characteristics of the host on the online context is the social person, with 2 organizing themes, family and friendly character. Family reflects the cultural shaping of identity by socio-cultural factors. Guests understand the host within a group and not only as an individual. The host's association with a wider group of similar individuals, in this case their family members, describes a social identity. Friendliness was also constructed in the discourse as a part of the social disposition of the host. In fact, the word friendly itself was the most common adjective used by hosts to describe themselves. The host as a social person is related to the need of meeting people and the love of sharing, one of the main reasons for hosts to share according to previous research. The outstanding service provider. On Airbnb, the notion of an outstanding host is constructed in the discourse as a synonymous to a helpful, respectful, and thoughtful service provider. Helpful was the most used word by peers to describe hosts, associated with abilities to provide great amounts of useful information, solve problems quickly, and accommodate special requests. Respectfulness refers to the host's capacity to understand what guests needed their own space and respected privacy. Considering the risks involved on peer-to-peer transactions, this trait results very significant. Regarding thoughtfulness, the disposition of hosts to go above and beyond to make their stay memorable was often praised. The active individual. The active nature of the Airbnb host was evident in the ideal of activity associated with day-to-day facets such as work life and hobbies. By mentioning occupation and profession, hosts let others know social groups that identify them and their specific roles on society. Regarding hobbies, providing cues on topics of interest facilitates the communication and it allows the host to make visible a shared passion with peers. The definition of the self includes what the host does and not only what the host is, reinforcing the idea that identity is moderated by the context and the environment. The final theme contributing to the representation of the online identity of the host was the multicultural self. The multicultural self related to specific roots, education and life experiences which in themselves shaped human identity. The foreign origins of the host gave the impression of cultural diversity, while the ability to dominate multiple languages was a defining and distinguished characteristic, especially helpful in exchanges between people of different cultures. Stories about life abroad cemented an image of global citizen. Some of the most important conclusions derived from this research are: hosts are represented online by hosts themselves and peers as social persons, outstanding service providers, and active individuals with a multicultural self. Helpfulness, thoughtfulness, and respectfulness are characteristics especially valued by peers that define hosts as accommodation providers. This leads to infer that the host identity generated by online textual discursive means is later confirmed during service provision. 3. On Airbnb, users continuously structure experience together and establish order in conventions of discourse that allow the identification of shared meanings and a more complete and complex image of the service provider on his different facets. 5. Online self-presentation strategies need to be congruent with physical personality cues given during offline interactions. Updating the self-presentation on peer-to-peer platforms could help to convey the evolving nature of a person's identity and keep up with the one expressed on peer comments. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your attention.